The words came out soft, almost apologetic, barely rising above the hum of the Saturday morning crowd. May I share this table with you? 5 simple words. 5 words that would quietly, irrevocably change 3 lives forever. Theo Winslow looked up from his black coffee, his daughter's animated voice still ringing in his ears, and saw her. A young woman leaning on crutches, blonde hair, pulled into a loose ponytail, a few strands falling around her face. Her brown eyes moved from table to table with an urgency he couldn't quite name, something caught between determination and quiet despair. The cafe was packed, every chair occupied, young couples leaning close over lattes, students hunched over laptops, families navigating strollers through narrow aisles. It was late March in Chicago, the first true Saturday of spring after months of relentless gray winter, and everyone had emerged from hibernation at once. Sawada Coffee in the West Loop neighborhood had always been like this on sunny mornings, but today felt different. Today felt full. Theo watched the woman approach a table near the entrance, where a couple sat close together, clearly mid-date. He saw her lips move, saw the gentle politeness in her posture. The woman at the table shook her head firmly. The blonde woman on crutches nodded, once apologized, turned away. She tried another table. A man alone, papers and laptops spread across every available surface. Another shake of the head. Her shoulders slumped. She bit her lip, and Theo saw something in that gesture that made his chest tighten with a pain he couldn't explain. It was the look of someone on the edge of giving up something important, something that mattered more than finding a seat in a crowded cafe. "Dad, are you even listening to me?" 6-year-old Vega's voice pulled him back. Her small hands were waving in the air, eyes wide with the absolute certainty that her story about Pumpkin, the class hamster, was the most important thing happening in the universe. "Of course, sweetheart. Pumpkin escaped during the presentation." "That was 5 minutes ago. Now I'm talking about—" But Theo's attention drifted again. The woman on crutches stood in the middle of the crowded space, looking lost, looking alone, looking like she was surrounded by people yet belonged nowhere. Their eyes met across the noise and warmth and clatter of the cafe. Theo saw vulnerability in her gaze. He saw a fragile flicker of hope. He saw a deep sorrow that seemed to rise from somewhere so far down he couldn't see the bottom. She took a breath, adjusted her crutches, and began walking toward their table. The scent of freshly roasted coffee mingled with vanilla from the pastry counter. Soft indie music threaded through the low hum of conversation. Outside the window, Chicago was slowly waking under rare early spring sunlight, the kind that made you remember that winter didn't last forever. "Excuse me." Her voice was gentle, polite, steady, though Theo could hear the tremor she was trying to hide beneath it. "I'm really sorry to bother you. I know this may sound strange, but would you mind if I shared this table with you? It's very crowded, and there aren't any seats left." She paused. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I really need to be here today. It's very important to me." Theo stood immediately. He pulled out the empty chair across from them, the one that had been sitting vacant all morning like it had been waiting. "Of course. Please have a seat. I'm Theo, and this is my daughter Vega." Relief spread across the young woman's face like dawn breaking through storm clouds. She carefully lowered herself into the chair and leaned her crutches against the wall beside her. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm Marlo, but everyone calls me Lo." She looked at both of them, and Theo noticed her eyes were still wet, as if it would only take the smallest reason for the tears to fall. "I asked those other tables first, but they said they needed privacy. I started thinking I'd have to leave, and Her voice caught. "I really couldn't bear to leave without sitting down for a while." "We're happy to share the table," Theo said warmly. "It gets really busy here when the weather's nice." Vega, never a shy child, immediately leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "We come here every Saturday. It's our special tradition. I always get hot chocolate with lots and lots of whipped cream, and Dad always orders boring black coffee." She scrunched up her nose at Theo's cup. "Do you like hot chocolate?" Lo smiled, though sadness still lingered on her face. The smile reached all the way to her eyes. "I love hot chocolate. It sounds perfect for today." A barista appeared, and Lo ordered coffee and a croissant. As soon as the barista walked away, Vega launched straight back into conversation with the boundless energy only a 6-year-old could possess. I'm in first grade and my teacher is Miss Davenport. We have a hamster in class named Pumpkin because he's orange and fluffy. Do you have any pets? Not right now, Lo replied, her fingers curling around her coffee cup, as if trying to hold on to its warmth. But I used to have a cat named Misty. She was gray with little white paws. That's such a pretty name, Sophie. My friend taught me a Spanish word. Niebla. It means fog. Her family speaks Spanish. Lo's smile widened. That's exactly why I named her that. Theo realized he was starting to relax. There was something about Lo, even with the sadness she carried, the way she listened to Vega with genuine attention. She asked about school, about Pumpkin, about Vega's friends. She laughed at the funny parts, widened her eyes at the dramatic ones. About 15 minutes passed. The coffee arrived. The croissant sat untouched on the plate, and then Lo gently set her cup down. She looked at the two of them with an expression Theo couldn't quite name. Gratitude mixed with something deeper, something more painful. There's something I want to tell you, she said softly. The reason I needed to be here today is because today is my birthday. I just turned 23. Vega's eyes went wide with excitement. Your birthday? And without thinking, without asking permission, Vega jumped to her feet and sang out loud, her voice high and slightly off-key but filled with absolute sincerity. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Dear Lo, happy birthday to you. Theo immediately joined in, his deeper voice blending with his daughter's enthusiastic singing. A few people at nearby tables turned to look. A woman smiled and joined in on the final line. An older couple across the cafe sang along as well. When the song ended, tears were streaming down Lo's cheeks, but she was smiling through them. Theo saw something break open in her eyes, like a small crack in the armor she had been wearing for so long. That was... She wiped her tears with trembling fingers. That was the most beautiful thing anyone has done for me in a very long time. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. Everyone deserves a birthday song, Vega declared with absolute certainty. Then her face suddenly lit up. Dad, we have to get her a birthday cake. You can't have a birthday without cake. Oh no, please don't. Lo shook her head quickly. You've already been so kind. Theo glanced toward the pastry case near the register. The cake here is actually really good. Are you okay with it? It's your birthday. You've already been so kind, Lo said, her voice breaking. I don't want to be any more trouble. You're not trouble at all, Theo said gently. Truly, please let us celebrate with you. Despite Lo's repeated protests, Theo still excused himself and walked toward the counter. A few minutes later, he returned with a small chocolate cake topped with smooth vanilla buttercream. A single candle standing in the center. As Theo leaned down to light the candle, a few people at nearby tables began to notice. Someone softly started singing, and very quickly, the entire corner of the cafe where they sat joined in with the familiar melody. Lo closed her eyes. Theo saw her lips move slightly as if she were whispering a wish meant only for herself. Then she leaned forward and blew out the candle. A small round of applause followed, spreading through the warm space of the cafe. All right, Vega announced solemnly. The birthday girl gets the first piece and the biggest one. She carefully cut the cake with a seriousness that was almost funny, as if it were an important mission. As they shared the cake together, something subtly shifted in the air. The sweetness of the moment, the unexpected kindness from strangers, seemed to open a door inside Lo. A door she had kept tightly locked for a very long time. This cafe, she began, her voice barely above a whisper, her eyes fixed on the plate in front of her. This was my family's place, our Saturday morning tradition, just like yours and Vega's. Theo's chest tightened. He glanced at Vega, who had stopped eating her cake, her child's intuition sensing the weight in Lo's voice. Lo looked up, her gaze meeting Theo's. It was me, my younger sister Iris, and my parents. We lived just a few blocks from here in a small apartment above Myopic Books. My father was a firefighter at Station 18. My mother was a pediatric nurse at Lurie Children's Hospital. She paused. Theo saw her hand tremble around her fork. We never had much but Saturday mornings at Sawada Coffee. Those were the happiest moments of my life. Iris always ordered strawberry waffles with extra syrup. My dad told terrible jokes that made my mom groan, but had us laughing nonstop. And my mom always secretly took a bite from everyone's plate. Lo's voice began to shake. We sat at a table just like this one, and during those hours, nothing else in the world mattered. Theo instinctively reached across the table and gently placed his hand over hers. What happened, Lo? Lo closed her eyes. A single tear slowly rolled down her cheek. 2 years ago, there was a gas leak in our building. The landlord had been warned many times about the old corroded pipes, but he always said next month he'd fix it. Next month, and then next month again. She took a trembling breath, her fingers tightening around Theo's hand, as if it were the only lifeline she had. That night we were all asleep. Her voice broke. The explosion. The next words were almost a whisper. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. The entire building had collapsed. Lo's whole body shook. Theo could see the memories rushing back. The sounds, the smell of smoke, the sheer terror. I was trapped under concrete and steel beams for nearly 6 hours before the rescue team found me. Her voice grew softer as if she were reliving every second. I remember the sound of twisting metal, the smell of gas, complete darkness. I called out to them, my dad, my mom, Iris, but there was only silence. Tears now streamed uncontrollably down her face. My left leg was completely crushed. The doctors said it couldn't be saved. They had to amputate it. Vega's eyes shimmered, tears pooling at the corners. Theo squeezed Lo's hand tighter. And then Lo said the words Theo knew were coming, yet could never truly prepare himself to hear. My parents and Iris. Her voice shattered. They didn't make it out. They died in the collapse. Iris, she was only 14. The space around them seemed to go quiet. The hiss of the espresso machine, the laughter from other tables were still there, but distant as if coming from another world. She wanted to be a veterinarian. Lo continued, her voice thick with emotion. She loved every animal she ever met. She brought stray cats home, took care of injured birds until they could fly again, cried over animals killed on the roadside. She had the biggest heart I've ever known. Lo's tears fell freely. And my parents, they spent their entire lives saving other people. My father ran into burning buildings. My mother fought every day to save sick children. Her voice dropped to a whisper. But they couldn't save themselves. They couldn't save Iris. And they couldn't save me. Before Theo could say anything, Vega quietly slid off her chair and walked around the table. Without a word, she wrapped her small arms tightly around Lo. I'm really sorry about your family, Vega said softly with the pure empathy only a child can have. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. But you're not alone now. We're here with you. Lo pulled Vega closer and broke down sobbing into the little girl's hair. Theo stepped in, placing his hand on Lo's shoulder, holding them together. They stayed that way for a long time. 3 people strangers, less than an hour ago now, bound together by unexpected kindness and shared loss. When Lo finally calmed, she looked up, her eyes red and swollen. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You don't need to apologize, Theo said firmly. Not for your pain, never. Lo wiped her face and took a shaky breath. I live with my aunt in Evanston now. She took me in after I was discharged and finished rehab. But it doesn't feel like home. Nothing feels like home anymore. She looked around the cafe at every table, every corner. Today is my birthday. All I wanted was to come back here to feel close to them one more time. This is where we were happiest. I thought if I could just sit at a table in this cafe, maybe it would feel like they hadn't completely left. Lo looked at Theo, fresh tears welling up again. But when I arrived and saw how crowded it was, I almost gave up. Then you said yes. You let me sit here. You sang to me. You bought me a cake. Her voice trembled. You made me feel like I mattered on a day when I felt completely alone in this world. You do matter, Vega said firmly, still standing beside Lo. And you're not alone anymore. Now you have us. Theo smiled at the purity of his daughter's heart. He thought about how for the past 3 years, since the day his divorce from Celeste had been finalized, the two of them had come to this cafe regularly, almost like an unspoken vow. Saturday mornings had become sacred time, a rare moment of peace amid the chaos of single parenthood. She's right, Theo said. You don't have to be alone today. This afternoon, we're planning to go to Lincoln Park. Nothing special, just an ordinary Saturday for the two of us. Would you like to come along? Lo looked stunned, as if she had just heard something too good to believe. Are you sure I don't want to intrude on your time together? You wouldn't be intruding, Theo said, his voice firm but gentle. We want you to come. Truly. Lo hesitated for exactly one breath, then nodded. I'd really like that. Thank you. They spent the rest of the afternoon at Lincoln Park. Vega ran straight for the swings as soon as they arrived, pumping her legs higher and higher, her laughter soaring on the wind. Theo and Lo sat on a bench talking in the way people only can when they feel a connection that is both surprising and somehow meant to be. The Chicago spring breeze blew softly, carrying the scent of damp earth and newly bloomed flowers. Sunlight filtered through the still sparse trees, scattering flickers of light across the paths. How long have you had your Saturday morning tradition? Lo asked, watching Vega swing higher and higher. 3 years, Theo replied, and for the first time he opened up about his own story. Since the divorce was finalized? Vega was 3 when her mother and I separated. I'm sorry, Lo said quietly. That must have been very hard. Theo nodded, surprised at how easy it felt to say these things while sitting beside her. It was hard but necessary. Celeste and I, my ex-wife, we got married very young, 22, right out of college. Back then we thought we wanted the same things. It turned out we didn't. He paused, watching Vega jump off the swing and run toward the climbing bars. She's an artist, a free spirit. She loves spontaneity, adventure road trips dreamed up at the last minute. And me? Theo smiled softly as if admitting a long-known truth. I'm a homebody. I like routine, quiet mornings, stability. Theo let out a slow breath. When Vega was born, we both tried very hard to make things work. But trying to become someone you're not, it's exhausting. We didn't hate each other. There was no anger. It was just slowly we stopped loving each other, like colors fading under sunlight. That sounds even harder than anger, Lo said. It is, Theo admitted, because there's no one to blame. No betrayal, no dramatic fights. Just a sad truth. Sometimes loving someone isn't enough if two people want fundamentally different lives. Lo was quiet for a moment, then asked softly, Where is she now? Milwaukee, Theo replied. She's a curator at a gallery there. She visits Vega twice a month and calls often. Our divorce was relatively peaceful. We chose mediation instead of lawyers. I got primary custody because my teaching job is more stable, and Vega needed that consistency. You're a teacher, Theo smiled. A middle school art teacher. Honestly, it's chaos, creativity, and hormones all mixed together. He chuckled. But I love it. An art teacher, Lo said, and something lit up in her eyes. That fits. You have that energy. Patient, thoughtful, creative. What about you? Theo asked. You mentioned graphic design. Lo nodded. Freelance. I work from home, which has been better since the amputation. I had to relearn my entire workflow. I used to pace around the apartment when I was thinking, then sketch while standing at an easel. Now I do most of my work seated on a tablet. It took months to adapt, but I did. That's incredible, Theo said sincerely, and incredibly resilient. I didn't have many choices, Lo replied softly. Either adapt or give up, and I'd already lost everything else. I wasn't about to lose my career too. The afternoon passed and they discovered more shared interests. They both loved hiking, though Lo hadn't been on a trail since the accident. They both preferred indie films over blockbusters. They both believed the smell of Chicago after rain was the best scent in the world. They both loved bookstores with creaking wooden floors and cafes with mismatched furniture that somehow still had a soul. But what stayed with Theo most wasn't those similarities. It was the way Lo laughed fully, wholeheartedly, as if she hadn't allowed herself to laugh like that in a very long time. The way she spoke to Vega, never condescending, never with that pitying tone adults sometimes used with children, but with genuine interest. The way her eyes lit up when she talked about her design work. And there were moments, brief quiet moments, when the sadness would suddenly wash over her. Theo saw it in her eyes and the fleeting tension around her mouth. Each time he didn't try to force her to be cheerful. He simply guided the conversation gently in another direction, just enough to give her space to breathe. As evening settled in and they finally said goodbye in the parking lot, they exchanged phone numbers. Thank you for today, Lo said. Her eyes were still slightly swollen, but there was something in them that Theo hadn't seen that morning. A real happiness, fragile but genuine. You and Vega turned what I thought would be the loneliest and most painful birthday of my life into something beautiful. I'll never forget it. Next Saturday, Theo asked, surprising himself with how much he hoped she would say yes. Same place. Lo's face lit up. I'd really love that. The messages started that very evening. Lo, thank you again for today. I can't stop thinking about how kind you and Vega were to a complete stranger. Theo, you're not a stranger anymore. You're our friend, and friends don't thank each other for birthday cake. It's clearly stated in the Friendship Handbook, page 47. Lord, then I suppose I need to read that handbook more carefully. Theo, it's an extremely thrilling book right up there with furniture assembly instructions and tax forms. The following Saturday, Lo showed up at Sawada Coffee with a slightly nervous smile, as if she still wasn't entirely convinced that she truly belonged there. But the moment Vega saw her, she squealed with excitement and ran straight over to hug Lo tightly. And just like that, it felt as though Lo had always been part of their Saturday morning tradition. Weeks passed, slowly turning into months. Lo began joining them in many other things as well. Trips to myopic books where each of them wandered into a different section and texted each other silly book titles they happened to find. Movie nights at Theo's apartment after Vega had gone to sleep where they cheerfully debated plot holes and character motivations. The art exhibition at Vega's school where Lo stood beside Theo, holding up her phone to take pictures with a pride no different from that of a real aunt. Lo taught Vega how to draw cartoon characters sitting at Theo's kitchen table with colored pencils scattered everywhere. And Theo and Lo texted each other late into the night about everything and about nothing at all. Silly memes, small observations from the day, and deeper conversations about grief, hope, and rebuilding a life from broken pieces. 2 months after they met, Lo made a decision. I'm moving back to Chicago, she said one evening, as the two of them sat on the couch after Vega had gone to bed, watching a documentary that neither of them was really paying attention to. Theo's heart gave a small leap. Really? My aunt supports it, Lo continued. She knows I need to rebuild my life, and living far away from the only place that feels like home. It doesn't make sense. I'm looking for an apartment around here. There's a studio available 3 blocks away. That's wonderful, Theo said, trying to keep his voice steady, even as his heart pounded. I can help you move. You don't have to. I want to. On moving day, Theo recruited a few of his teacher friends, Marcus Dillard, Kevin Rohr, and Jenna Carlisle. They carried boxes up 3 flights of stairs, assembled furniture, and hung artwork. Lo ordered pizza for everyone, and by the end of the day, the small studio apartment truly felt like a home. 3 months into their friendship, Lo had fully woven herself into the lives of the two of them. She knew Vega hated broccoli but loved Brussels sprouts. She knew Theo graded papers more efficiently with soft jazz playing in the background. She remembered both of their coffee orders exactly. She became the first person Theo texted when something funny happened, the person whose opinion he valued, the person whose laughter alone could make his entire day feel lighter. And then one afternoon in June, as they sat in a cafe, not Sawada but a new place, Theo realized that his feelings had quietly shifted from friendly to something deeper. Lo was laughing about something silly that had happened during a graphic design client meeting. She tilted her head back, the afternoon sunlight catching her hair in a perfect way. Theo's heart skipped a beat. He was in love with her. Maybe he had been for a long time, but he didn't say anything. Lo had already endured too much loss. She was 9 years younger than him. And above all, there was Vega to consider. What if he misread the signals? What if pursuing a romantic relationship destroyed the friendship they had so carefully built? So Theo chose silence. He cherished what they had while quietly longing for more. 4 months after the day they met, everything changed. It was a Tuesday evening in early August. Theo was grading his students' art projects at the kitchen table, while Vega sat beside him carefully coloring. His phone rang. Celeste's name appeared on the screen. Hi, Celeste. Is everything okay? Yes, actually. I'm calling with good news. Her voice was excited in energy Theo hadn't heard from her in years. I've been offered a position at the Art Institute of Chicago, a curator role with a path to senior curator within 2 years. It's exactly what I've been working toward, and it means I'll be moving back to Chicago. Theo's grip tightened around the phone. You're moving back here. Yes, I've been thinking about this for a long time, even before this job came along. Seeing Vega twice a month isn't enough. I want to be a real mother to her, not just a visiting guest. This job is the perfect opportunity. That's wonderful, Celeste. Vega will be very happy to see you more. There's something else I want to say. Celeste continued, her voice slowing. I've been in therapy a lot. I've done a lot of reflection about myself and about us, about our marriage. Theo's stomach dropped. Celeste, let me finish, she interrupted. We were too young when we got married. We let stress and our differences pull us apart. But maybe we gave up too soon. Maybe with time, with maturity, we could try again. Not right away, but someday. Theo felt as if he couldn't breathe. Think about it, Theo. A real family for Vega. Both parents together giving her the stability and love she deserves. I don't know what to say. You don't have to answer right now. I know this is a lot. Just think about it. For Vega, if nothing else. When the call ended, Theo sat motionless at the kitchen table, his thoughts spinning. Vega looked up from her coloring book. That was Mom, wasn't it? Yes, sweetheart. Is Mom coming to visit? Theo took a deep breath. Actually, Mom might be moving back to Chicago for a new job. Vega's face lit up. Really, Mom's coming back here. That's the best news ever. She jumped out of her chair, completely forgetting about her coloring. Dad, this is amazing. I can see Mom all the time. And maybe if Mom's here, you and Mom can be together again, like a real family, like Harper's parents. We could live together. Theo's heart sank. Sweetheart, it's not that simple. But it could be, Vega insisted with the innocent certainty of childhood. If Mom's here and you're here, you could fall in love with Mom again. That's how it always works in movies. Then we'd be a real family. I wouldn't have to go back and forth anymore, and we could have dinner together every night. Theo looked at his daughter, her eyes shining with hope, her radiant smile, and felt a dull ache spread through his chest. Sometimes the people you love most want things you simply cannot give them. That Saturday at Sawada Coffee Low almost immediately sensed that something was wrong. Theo seemed distracted, far quieter than usual, barely touching his coffee. Hey, she said softly after Vega ran off to look at the pastry case. What's going on? You seem really distant. Theo sighed, rubbing a hand over his face as if trying to pull himself back into the moment. Celeste called. She got a job offer in Chicago. She's moving back. Oh. Lo's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Something passed across her face so quickly that Theo couldn't quite read what it was. That's good, right? Lo said, forcing her voice to stay even. Vega will get to see her mom more. Yeah, it'll be good for Vega. Is there something else? Theo hesitated. How could he tell her that Celeste wanted to try again, that his ex-wife had suggested rekindling their marriage, that he himself was confused, unsure how to make sense of it all? He chose his words as if stepping onto thin ice. It's just there are going to be a lot of changes, a lot to figure out. What Theo didn't know was that later that afternoon, when he stepped outside to take a call from his sister, Vega had told Lo everything with the blunt innocence of a child who had no concept of holding things back. You know what? Vega said, practically vibrating with excitement. My mom is moving back to Chicago, and I told Dad that maybe they could fall in love again, and then we could be a family living together. Isn't that the best idea ever? Then I'd have both my mom and my dad in the same house. Lo felt something shatter inside her chest. She tried to say something, forcing a stiff smile onto her lips. That would be really wonderful for you, Vega. I really hope it happens. Vega went on, completely unaware of the pain that had just flashed through Lo's eyes. I pray about it every night. I want my mom and dad to be together again. That night, Lo lay awake in her studio apartment, staring up at the ceiling as the Chicago rain tapped a steady rhythm against the window. Of course, Theo would want his family reunited. Of course, he would choose what Vega wanted most. Both parents, a complete family unit. What could Lo possibly offer in comparison to that? She was just a broken girl who had wandered into their lives at a cafe. She had no right to stand in the way of Vega having a whole family again. And Theo, he had never shown her that he saw her as anything more than a friend. She had been foolish to let herself fall in love with him, foolish to imagine he might feel the same. Over the next 2 weeks, Lo began to quietly withdraw. Theo's messages were answered less and less. Invitations were declined gently, politely enough that there was nothing to argue with. yet cold enough to hurt. Theo, want to go see a movie Friday night? Lo, I can't. Sorry, I'm buried in a big freelance deadline. Theo, Saturday coffee. Lo, I'm not feeling very well. Maybe another time. Theo, next Saturday, Lo. I have to drive to Evanston to help my aunt with something. Theo was confused and hurt. What had he done wrong? What had he said to upset her? The change had started right after he mentioned Celeste moving back. He tried calling, but Lo let it go to voicemail. Theo, did I do something wrong? Please talk to me. I miss you. Hours later, the reply finally came. Lo, I just think I've been imposing too much on your time with Vega. You and she need your own space, especially with everything changing. Theo stared at the message, unable to understand it. Imposing. Lo had become part of their family. How could she possibly think that by the third Saturday without Lo, Vega looked around Sawada Coffee with confused, wounded eyes? Where's Lo? Why isn't she coming anymore? Did we do something to make her mad? No, sweetheart, Theo said, trying to keep his voice gentle. She's just busy. But she's never busy like this before. Vega whispered, her voice small and hurt. I miss her, Dad. She's my friend. Theo felt his throat tighten. I miss her too. That night, after tucking Vega into bed, Theo sat on the couch, trying to piece everything together. Lo had started pulling away right after he mentioned Celeste, and Vega had been so excited about the idea of her parents getting back together. Unless the realization hit him like a freight train. Vega must have told Lo about wanting her parents to reunite, and Lo, sweet Lo, who had lost her entire family, probably believed she was standing in the way of Vega getting a whole home again. She was sacrificing her own happiness, sacrificing the friendship they had built simply because she thought it was the right thing to do for Vega. Theo jumped to his feet and grabbed his keys. 20 minutes later, Theo stood outside Lo's apartment door and knocked. When Lo opened it, surprise flashed across her face. Then immediately something like panic. Theo, what's wrong? Is Vega okay? Vega's fine, Theo said quickly. She's with our neighbor, Mrs. Pruitt. We need to talk. Please. Lo hesitated, then stepped aside to let him in. The studio apartment was small but warm, and what made Theo stop short immediately was the photos. Photos everywhere. Pictures of her late family on every surface. A younger Lo Iris grinning her parents with their arms around both girls. Moments frozen in time. A world that had been lost. They sat down on the old sofa. Theo turned to face her direct enough to leave neither of them an escape. You pulled away because of Celeste, didn't you? Lo's eyes filled instantly with tears. Theo, Vega told you, didn't she? Theo asked, his voice dropping. About wanting Celeste and me to get back together. Lo looked down, twisting her hands in her lap. She's excited about having both her parents in the same city, and she should be excited. She deserves a complete family, Theo. Parents who love each other living together. After everything she's been through with the divorce, she deserves that fairy tale ending. Lo, Theo said, his voice rough. Look at me, please. She looked up. Tears slid down her cheeks. I need you to understand something, Theo said firmly, taking her hands. Celeste and I are not getting back together. We don't love each other. We haven't for years. Living in the same city doesn't change that. But she wants to try again. She mentioned it as a possibility, Theo said more firmly, and I didn't seriously consider it. Not for a second. Celeste and I don't belong together. We never truly did. We were young and in love with the idea of love, but we weren't compatible as partners. That hasn't changed. But Vega is 6, Theo said gently but decisively. She has fairy tale ideas where everyone lives happily ever after in the same house. But that's not reality, and it's not what's best for her. Celeste and I can still be great parents to Vega without being married to each other. She'll understand when she's older. Theo, I'm not finished. He interrupted, his heart pounding so loudly he could hear it. I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. The past 4 months have been the happiest months of my life since the divorce. Theo said, his voice shaking. Not because of convenience, not because of circumstance, but because of you. Lo stopped breathing. Because you make me laugh in ways I thought I'd forgotten how. Because you see the world through a lens that pulls me in. Because you're kind, resilient, real, and beautiful. And because when I'm with you, everything feels right in a way it never did with Celeste. Lo's tears fell harder. You can't say things like that. Why not? Theo asked, almost laughing through the pain. It's the truth. He took both her hands, holding them tightly. You're not standing in the way of anything, Lo. You're not an obstacle to my family. You are my family. You've been my family since the day you asked to share our table. Vega loves you, and he took a trembling breath. I love you. I am in love with you. I've been in love for weeks, maybe months, and I hope you feel the same. Lo looked at him, tears streaming, her breath uneven. I do, she whispered. I've loved you since the day you sang happy birthday to a stranger and made her feel seen. But I couldn't let myself hope that you. Theo pulled her into his arms. Lo broke down against his chest as if all the emotions she had been holding back for weeks had finally found somewhere to spill. He held her tightly, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other wrapped around her waist. You're allowed to hope, he whispered into her hair. You're allowed to want. You're allowed to be loved, Lo. You're allowed to be happy. I love you, Lo said, pulling back to look at him through tears. I love you so much, and I love Vega, but I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared of ruining this. Scared you'll realize I'm not enough. Scared Vega will resent me because I'm not her mom. Scared, Theo kissed her softly, gently, filled with months of longing that had never dared to be spoken. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. You are enough, Theo said firmly, cupping her face in his hands. You are more than enough, and we'll figure everything out together. Celeste moving back in new custody arrangements, all of it. But please don't pull away from us. Don't leave us. We need you. I won't leave, Lo promised, clutching his shirt like a lifeline. I'm sorry I tried. I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize, Theo said, kissing her forehead. They held each other for a long time. Outside, the Chicago rain continued its steady rhythm against the window, as if washing away fear and doubt, leaving between them only the truth. The next morning, Theo sat Vega down at the kitchen table for a conversation he knew he could not avoid. Sweetheart, he began, his voice slow and steady. I need to talk to you about Mom moving back to Chicago. Vega looked at him with eyes full of hope. Her toast paused halfway to her mouth. Your mom and I both love you more than anything in this world, Theo said, and Mom wants to move back here so she can see you more. That is truly wonderful. But, he drew in a breath as if he had to gather all his courage to say what came next. Mom and I are not getting back together. Vega's face fell immediately. The toast hung forgotten in the air. But why? If Mom is here, then... Because sometimes, Theo said gently, people who care about each other realize they're better as friends than as husband and wife. Your mom and I tried very hard when we were married, but we weren't happy together in the way a couple should be. We made each other sad more than we made each other happy. But I want all of us together, Vega said, her voice trembling, her eyes starting to fill with tears. I know, sweetheart, and I understand why you want that, Theo said, taking his daughter's hand. But we are still together, just in a different way. You have a mom who loves you, and you have a dad who loves you. Both of us are here for you. That's what matters, not whether your parents live in the same house or are married to each other. Vega was quiet for a moment, as if trying to swallow something too big and too difficult. Then she looked up. Is it because of Lo? No, Theo answered immediately, firmly, his hand tightening gently around those tiny fingers. Your mom and I decided to divorce a long time before I met Lo. He paused, choosing his words as if picking up shards of glass. But I need to tell you something about Lo. Vega watched him closely. I love her, Vega, Theo said. Not just as a friend, but the way grown-ups love each other when they want to be together. To his surprise, Vega's face didn't darken the way he feared. It softened, as if some part of her had been waiting to hear it for a long time. Like a boyfriend and a girlfriend. Yes, exactly like that. Vega went quiet again, her 6-year-old mind processing feelings more complicated than she had words for. Then she said, honestly, I like Lo. She's really nice. And Dad, you laugh a lot when she's around. You laugh more. Theo felt his eyes sting. I do laugh more when she's around. Does she still get to have Saturday coffee with us? Always, sweetheart. Always. Vega nodded slowly, then climbed into Theo's lap and hugged him tightly. I still wish you and Mom could be together, she admitted, her voice muffled against his chest. But I guess if you're happy with Lo, that's okay. Thank you for understanding, my girl, Theo whispered. 6 weeks later, Celeste moved back to Chicago. She and Theo agreed on a new custody arrangement during a meeting at a neutral cafe. Vega would stay with Celeste every other weekend, plus one evening a week for dinner. The first time Celeste came to pick Vega up from Theo's apartment, she met Lo. After Vega ran off to pack her overnight bag in excitement, the two women stood a little awkwardly in the doorway, as if neither of them knew how to begin in the right way. Celeste was exactly as Lo had imagined. Tall with an artist's presence, fingers speckled with paint. Expressive eyes as if she were always thinking about a painting she hadn't yet created. So you're Marlo, Celeste said, her voice calm but her expression unreadable. I am, Lo replied, trying to stay steady even as her heart hammered. I want you to know I'm not trying to replace you. You're Vega's mother. I would never. I know, Celeste cut in. And to Lo's surprise, Celeste smiled, a real smile reaching all the way to her eyes. Vega talks about you all the time, Celeste said. Lo taught me this. Lo said that. I can tell she loves you. And I can also tell you make Theo happy in a way I never did. Celeste paused, glancing toward Theo, who was in Vega's room helping her pack. I thought I wanted to try again with him, Celeste said, her voice lower. But the truth is, I was lonely, and I confused wanting to be a better mother with wanting to be his wife again. Those are two different things. Then she turned back to Lo. I'm truly glad he found you. Take care of them, will you? Both of them are pretty special. Lo felt tears rise. Thank you, she said softly. That means more than you think. Take good care of my daughter, Celeste said, her voice softening. Not just Theo. Vega too. I will, Lo nodded firmly. I absolutely will. Over time, Celeste and Lo built a respectful co-parenting relationship grounded in their shared love for Vega. Of course, there were awkward moments and adjustments. School events, holidays, the scheduling, logistics. But they worked through it all with maturity, always putting Vega first. 1 year after that fateful meeting at Sawada Coffee on a Saturday morning in late March, at the very table where it all began, Theo got down on one knee. Vega stood beside him in her prettiest dress, holding a small velvet box with both hands trembling with excitement, barely able to contain herself. The cafe suddenly went quiet, as if every sound understood it needed to make room for this moment. Other customers began to notice. Marlo Adelaide, Theo said, taking her hand as Lo stared at him in disbelief. The day you asked to share our table, you changed our lives completely. His voice was slow, each word carrying weight. You brought light, love, and laughter back into our world. You showed me what true partnership looks like. You were patient with Vega as she adjusted. You were kind to Celeste. You have been everything I didn't know I needed. His voice trembled with emotion. Will you marry us? Will you officially become a part of our family? Lo cried and laughed at the same time, one hand covering her mouth. Yes, she burst out, breaking open. Yes, yes, absolutely, yes. Vega opened the velvet box, revealing a beautiful ring. Simple, elegant, with a small diamond, catching the morning light. The whole cafe erupted in applause. The very people who had sung happy birthday a year earlier were now cheering for a new beginning. Theo slid the ring onto Lo's finger and kissed her. Vega rushed forward, wrapping her arms around both of them. Mr. Grant Holloway, the owner, brought out a bottle of champagne for Theo and Lo and hot chocolate for Vega on the house. To the family that started at table 7, someone shouted and the entire cafe raised their cups. 6 months later, they got married on a warm Saturday morning in September. The wedding took place right there at Sawada Coffee at the corner table where everything began. The owner closed the cafe for the morning, transforming it into a space that was both simple and sparkling, with plain white flowers and string lights. Vega was the flower girl wearing the green dress she had chosen herself, and she announced to anyone willing to listen that she had known they were in love since forever. Celeste came and took photos, genuinely happy for them. She brought along her new girlfriend, Juliet Grayson, an art conservator she had met at the museum. They sat in the front row close together. When it was time for the vows, Theo spoke first. Lo, he said, his voice thick but clear. When you asked if you could share our table, you gave me more than a coffee friend. You gave me hope. You taught me that family isn't only what you're born into. It's what you build one kind moment at a time. You showed Vega what resilience looks like, and you showed me what love is supposed to feel like. His voice was full of emotion. I promise I will always save a seat for you at our table, celebrate every birthday like it's the most important day of the year, and remind you every single day that you are exactly where you belong. Lo's hands trembled as she held his. Theo, she said, her voice breaking with tears. I came to this cafe on the worst birthday of my life to look for ghosts, but instead I found a future. You and Vega didn't just let me share your table. You made space for me in your heart. You taught me that pain and joy can exist at the same time, that being broken doesn't mean being worthless, and that family is something you create. Tears ran freely down her face. I promise to love both of you with everything I have, to honor the family you welcomed me into, and to never forget that the best things in life sometimes begin with a simple question. Lo took a breath, looking at Theo as if she were looking at an entire lifetime. May I share this table? When they kissed, the small crowd burst into cheers. Vega jumped up and down, and somewhere in the crowd, someone started singing at the perfect playful moment, "Happy wedding day to you." The whole cafe laughed through tears. They cut a small chocolate cake with vanilla buttercream, just like the cake from that first birthday. Lo closed her eyes and made a wish she had been wishing for months. And now it had only one word left: gratitude. As they danced their first dance in the narrow space between tables, Lo rested her head on Theo's shoulder and whispered, "Thank you for saying yes." Theo squeezed her hand and whispered back, as if it were the most beautiful secret of his life, "Thank you for asking." And Vega, watching her dad and new stepmother dance, leaned against Celeste and said with complete trust, "Mom, do you know what? Sometimes fairy tales are real. They just don't look like they do in books." Celeste bent down and kissed the top of her daughter's head. "You're completely right, sweetheart. Sometimes fairy tales look like this." Their story began with a birthday song and a slice of cake. It began with a young woman brave enough to ask for exactly what she needed, and a single father kind enough to say yes. It began with a simple truth, one that quietly redirected the lives of three people forever. Sometimes all we have to do is leave a seat at our table for someone desperately searching for a place to belong. Because the smallest acts of kindness can create the deepest connections. Because family is not always the people we are born to. Sometimes it is the people we choose to embrace, to walk alongside, to call home. And because sometimes on an ordinary Saturday morning in a crowded cafe, a life can turn in a completely different direction, all because of one simple question. May I sit at this table with you?